The unit counter system in Tempest Rising is the basis for combat between units of the three factions, but to learn it you first have to understand the mechanics of weapon types versus armor in this game. So, as one of my viewers suggested in a poll I ran recently on my channel, not only will I explain this mechanic, but also give you many examples of how to use this knowledge in combat. So in Tempest Rising you have 6 types of weapon attacks, which are rifle, rocket, explosive, cannon, fire and sniper, and you can see which attack type a unit has by hovering over the gun icon in its stats and reading the info from the tooltip. For defense against these, each unit and building has armor, shown as the shield icon, but when you hover your mouse over it, you will discover that different units and buildings have different resistances to each of the 6 weapon types. This is how the system of unit counters is created in Tempest Rising, and it is something I promised to fully explain in my previous tutorial, which you can watch by clicking on the card up here or the link in the description. So in this video I am going deep into this topic and will show you many examples of how to use this knowledge to your advantage when playing the game, no matter if you are experiencing the story in the campaign, practicing against AI bots in the skirmish, or testing your skill against other players in multiplayer. To make this easy to understand, let's start with a simple example. Here I am in a multiplayer match on one of the smaller maps where the players' command centers are quite close to each other, and so I am preparing a quick command center capture plan with my engineers and dynasty guards. If successful, I will be able to take over the enemy command center with my engineer, pack it up and drive off into the sunset, leaving my opponent with only the choice of surrendering, as it is basically impossible to win after this happens to you so early on. I have done this half a dozen times to my less skillful opponents when I started climbing the leaderboards, and while it feels like getting punched in the guts and a cheesy play, it is something players need to learn to defend against. I will show you a few ways to defend against this engineer capture tactic later in the video. You can also use this capture tactic much later in a match and achieve great results, and I have showcased this in my previous video titled The Thieving Turtle, which is linked up here as a card on the screen and a link down in the description of this tutorial video. But let's get back to the point about weapon types versus armor and unit counters. When I sent out my engineer and my dynasty guards in this match towards the enemy base, they got intercepted by 2 Havocs. This is the Tempest Dynasty's light mobile missile platform, and its weapon damage type is rocket based, while its armor is most resistant to rifle, fire and sniper weapon attacks. This makes it a poor counter to my engineer and dynasty guard units, because their armor is best against the rocket weapon type, which is the one Havoc uses. But on the other hand, the dynasty guard's weapon type is rifle, which is what the Havoc's armor is most resistant to. But what the Havocs are much better at, because of their rocket weapon attack type, is destroying Tempest Rig wheels, because that unit only has 25% resistance to this weapon attack type. The Tempest Rig itself has the same low resistance to the rocket weapon type, and so my opponent's early rush with 2 Havocs can deal tremendous damage to my economy, while I have no answer, as I was preparing for a much different plan with my attempt to capture the enemy command center with my engineers. GDF's Harvesters are equally weak to rocket fire, so when facing that faction, you can rush a few Havocs and deal good damage to their Harvesters too. Building a missile turret can help somewhat in this situation, as its weapon attack type is a rocket, which the Havocs have no armor resistance to, but the turret has only limited range, and Havocs can just move out from it. A better choice are missile troopers, as they have high rocket armor resistance and have the rocket weapon attack type, which, as we saw, Havocs have a low resistance to. They can also use their dash ability to run after Havocs and can't be run over by light vehicles such as the Havoc. What ended this multiplayer match was my opponent doing a 5-minute rush build with 3 operatives and the Cold Guard support power, which spawns a bunch of infantry units from the targeted dynasty buildings for 3000 credits. This is a very powerful Dynasty build order, ideal for small maps like this one, and it is difficult to counter if you aren't planning to do so from the start of a match. I will explain how to do it yourself and counter it in a future video, which I will link up here as a card and down in the description. Now I need to give you those examples of how to protect yourself against an early or mid-game engineer capture rush. The first is the simplest one. Don't leave your command center at the starting location, because the enemy player knows where it is. Pack it up into an MCV and move it, because then it becomes much harder to find and capture. Second way is packing it up into an MCV at the moment the enemy is trying to capture it, since it can't be captured when in vehicle form. If you have turrets around your command center or buildings upgraded with turrets if you are the Dynasty faction, that can help too. While with the GDF you can have a barracks garrisoned with a few field scouts next to it. Third option is using walls or buildings constructed all around the command center to prevent enemy engineers from having physical access to it. Feel free to share your experience with engineer rushes or other interesting tactics in the comments below. Now, let's analyze an often repeated combat situation between the GDF and Tempest Dynasty factions, because most GDF players you face in multiplayer will use this particular combo of units: drone operators, sentinels, and hunter tanks. The reason why this is such a powerful combination is twofold. First, the combination of weapon damage types. The Sentinel fires a rifle-based weapon, which is deadly to Tempest Dynasty light infantry like Dynasty Guard, Missile Trooper, and Engineer, as their armor has zero resistance to rifle-based weapon fire, while its own armor is 50% resistant to rifle, fire, and sniper weapon attack types. The Sentinel also marks hit targets and lets GDF gain intel by killing them, while networked weapons do more damage to marked units. The drone operators themselves fire a cannon-type weapon, while their drones fire a rocket-type weapon. These types of attacks are ineffective against Tempest Dynasty light infantry, but are highly effective against Dynasty light vehicles, like Havocs and Pillagers, which have almost no armor resistance to these weapons. Even the Boar tank, a second tech level Dynasty unit, has low armor resistance against these two weapon types. But what it has are medium speed and the ability to run over drone operators en masse. Since its weapon is cannon based, it won't do much against infantry by firing at them, but the units it will destroy easily are the GDF Sentinel and Hunter tanks, which have zero armor resistance against cannon-based weapons by default. This armor can be upgraded a bit, but it won't make much of a difference. Another way of defeating the GDF's drone operator swarms in mass are Missile Troopers, Havocs, or Dragonflies. Against their drones, as their rocket weapon types deal the best damage against drones at long range at that, while Matchsticks and Hammerhands, explosive and rifle-based weapons, deal the best damage to the human operators whose armor has zero resistance to these attacks. Rifle, fire, and sniper weapons are also 100% effective against drone operators, but actually getting Dynasty Guards or Pillagers close to them is not going to happen due to weapon and armor interactions I have already explained. Matchsticks are also effective against Sentinels and their 25% armor versus explosive weapons. When you learn all this, you can see why I had the most success countering GDF's drone operators, sentinels, and hunter tanks composition with a spearhead of boar tanks, which crush drone operators under their treads. Matchsticks also deal great area of effect damage to them all, letting boar tanks blow up sentinels and hunter tanks at range, while Missile Troopers, Havocs, and Dragonflies can take down drones quickly, while you need Hammerhands or Porcupine MLRS to deal with the remaining units. Do note that basically all air units in both factions have practically no armor to speak of, meaning they are very weak and the equivalent of a glass cannon in Tempest Rising. One more emerging GDF build that can give you a headache is the Skycrane transport helicopter filled with drone operators or even worse, drone maulers and engineers. The engineers repair the Skycrane from inside, while the drones fly next to it, dealing the rocket or cannon damage type. The GDF player can harass your harvesters from mountainsides, use stealth to get into your base, or escape the attack range of your vehicles. Dealing with this menace is not easy at all, especially if you went for more economy or vehicles and infantry and don't have credits for quick air units to hunt it down. You can try with a few havocs, but at most you will manage to destroy the drones, which just respawn in a short time. If you folks have ideas on how to deal with the Skycrane transport and drones early on, please share them with all of us in the comments. There are of course more units and buildings, weapons versus armor interactions, especially turrets and their weapon types I should go into, but I think the content of this video is hard enough to turn into understanding and knowledge as it is, so I will explain more and show extra examples in future videos. Thank you for watching and happy gaming!